Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another forecast. So, in today's forecast, I'm going to be going over a lot of things. So, some errors about our last forecasts, and also possible severe weather later on this week, Thursday, Friday. And I might even go way far into future products and look at just, the overall pattern that's going to be coming in. Most likely a lot of warmth for the east, um, rain for the west over here. And one thing I wanted to talk about was possible severe weather corridor, kind of right in here for this Thursday and Friday. Other than that, let's begin this video. Quick disclaimer: if you hear screaming in the background, that is my bird Melon. Recently I changed the name of this channel away from Weather Bird Forecasts. That's why it was named Weather Bird Forecasts, because of this bird. So if you hear this bird screaming in the background, don't worry about it. We're all good. Just my bird. Enjoy the video. So, something I wanted to get out of the way here real quick is some of the errors I made in my last forecast. So, in the last forecast, it was pretty accurate, but there was one thing I said, which is nothing too severe. So, I want to say this now. When I say nothing too severe, that does not mean nothing severe is going to happen. I mean, we're not going to get a whole tornado outbreak like we saw in Dixie Alley in 2011 with all those EF5s, you know, the April 27th. A lot of people have heard of that outbreak. I'm saying that is not going to happen. But severe weather is still possible for a day, especially if I'm talking about it, right? The other day we saw quite a lot of, not a lot, but there was a good amount of tornado reports kind of scattered, a few here in Florida, something like this. There was this one tornado report area in Texas, and there were some in Florida from that one day we talked about with that severe threat. Now, personally, I think I made an error with the fact that I didn't really talk enough about the possible threat for, the Gulf Coast states. Although, to be fair, I think the weather world itself also didn't expect this huge line of cells that kind of moved through Florida and caused some damage. But again, nothing, there wasn't a whole lot that happened, and that's why I say nothing too severe, right? Because all of those were pretty big outliers for that day. It wasn't exactly something we expected. So in a way, those are outliers, and that's when I say nothing too severe. In fact, the day before, on the day where there was a tornado right here, there wasn't really much else. In fact, I'm gonna look at the storm reports right now. So this is just so we can kind of understand what I'm looking at exactly. I'll zoom in a little bit here, but you can see here, this is that one tornado report here in Texas with a few scattered wind and hail reports. The next day, one wind report here in Mississippi, and then 3 tornado reports here in near Florida and the Gulf Coast, as well as some wind reports off the coast of California. Even some hail, which is somewhat surprising for Florida, especially. But that's what happened to those days. Again, when I say nothing too severe, I'm saying this is nothing like an outbreak, right? There were reports, but this is not in any way tornado outbreak, a hail outbreak, or a wind outbreak. So that's what I want to get out of the way just for the future. Don't think when I say nothing too severe, nothing is going to happen. It's just not going to be an outbreak. So for now, I'm going to look at the reflectivity simulated by the HRRR model. I'm using this website, Pivotal Weather, just because the College 50 page one doesn't allow me to look at the full United States. You can see here a lot of dryness over here in the eastern half of the United States, and a little more precipitation here in California. The Weather Prediction Center actually has a high risk out right now for heavy rainfall in this area, which is somewhat surprising. Pretty rare to see high risks for rain. This could be quite a flooding risk here as well, so something to look out for. Otherwise, in the United States, it's a pretty dry region in the entire eastern half here, including Canada. All of this is very dry. You can see here on this loop here, very dry weather. I mean, barely a speck of rain in any of this area. Some of this is snow up here in the north, maybe, but nothing's really there. And the reason for this is actually a pretty high pressure ridge that's kind of taking shape over the eastern half of the United States right now. So if we look at this right now, here's our high pressure. I can see because the wind barbs are going in a bigger, in a clockwise pattern, something like this. You can kind of see, like we talked about, wind barbs, they'll look kind of like this. This is showing a north wind because imagine the station's right here. The wind is moving through here and making this wind barb be pointed backwards like so. So essentially you follow the arrows and go through the wind barb from the space station plot. But here's our high pressure ridge right here. And what high pressure does is actually brings warmer temperatures, which is something we've been seeing for a while. I'm looking at the GFS model right now just because it's a little easier to show temperature anomalies. We can see temperature anomalies up in the sure what that is, 35s. That's a lot of anomaly because usually in Canada it's pretty cold in February. It's a lot warmer in Canada at the moment, a lot colder, or a lot warmer across the entire United States, and it's going to stay that way for quite a while. We're seeing warmer temperatures than usual basically everywhere here until basically Valentine's Day, I believe, and then we'll see pretty average temperatures. Standard temperature anomalies show something similar, not as drastic as the last one, but same difference either way, warmer temperatures. And again, the main reason for this is because of this low pressure right here, which I'll highlight with a big L, and high pressure right here, somewhere around here. Again, this is a low later product, so it's a little moved. But essentially, remember, high pressure rotates clockwise. So there's our winds are going up from here from the high pressure, and low pressure rotates counterclockwise. So it's rotating like so. Winds are coming this direction. You can only see behind the red. Let me move to just the blank map here. But this is essentially funneling warm air right into this corridor right here and into Canada as well. So that's where most of our higher temperatures are coming in. Just this huge swath of yellow. So with the temperature part of the forecast out of the way, I'd like to talk about Thursday and Friday having a possible system coming through. So this is something I look at quite a lot is Midwestern type events, just because that's something I can actually witness myself being a Midwesterner. And there's one event on Thursday and Friday that is kind of catching my eye here. So we have a 500 millibar trough right here. I'll circle that in this pink color. And pretty cold temperatures as well. Right now I'm looking at the temperature map here. So at 500 millibars, there's a colder swath of temperatures right here. And that's kind of indicative of a cold core setup, which could bring a line of tornadic cells that can move just like so and move northerly. So again, I'll draw that out one more time. A little line of cells that could move like this and could bring some tornado risk as well. So that's something I'm trying to understand a little better. It's cold core environments. I'm going to zoom in here to the Midwest. You can see there's a surface low centered somewhere up here. Somewhere up here there's a surface low. And we have a lot of, again, southerly flow, bringing all this warm air. You can see 61 degrees, 50, 56, I believe, 52 here. Even 50s in Minnesota. Again, very, very warm for this time of year, especially. And that's not to be outdone by fairly high dew points as well. 44s here, 48. It brings a lot of relative humidity for this entire area. So this is pretty warm and moist air here, and that could bring us a few cells that would be severe. Again, it's hard to just tell right now. Right now, I can look at the NAM model as well. This will show us some good soundings. So, not the best simulated reflectivity for it. If we go back to those same spots we were at, with a warmer region over here, the NAM is much less progressive with this trough. It seems to think it's going to slow down a little bit and stay more over here. If you look at our main threat, it's just going to be Missouri. Also tell a significant tornado parameter. STP basically shows, what kind of products there are for tornadic storms. Just a little plume right here where there's possible supercells. Looking at this photograph, we have 53 joules per kilogram of 3 CAPE, which isn't a whole lot, but could be enough to get storms really initiated in those lower levels, as well as a nice curvature in the lower levels as well. So again, though, we're pretty far out from this event in, relative terms of severe weather. So I'm a little curious how that's going to pan out. I'm always, somewhat optimistic, thinking these are going to happen, but at the same time not optimistic because you don't want severe weather to ravish the area. I'll see how this pans out myself, though, and maybe if I get the chance, I might be able to actually see some of this. I have to move back to the GFS model just because of pure restraints. The NAM doesn't go far enough. And on Friday, we're seeing a possible plume of CAPE in this region as well, which could lead to a bit of a better day on Friday. You can see this supercell composite right here. Again, nothing too high up there. Nothing too high end for supercells to form, but there is a little plume of possibility right here. It's 2 supercell composite. Essentially, it's just saying right here there could be storms. The GFS soundings also aren't as good, so I'll take this with a grain of salt. But it can also kind of show what we're going to be seeing on the ground, and if we were to take a sounding. Something I'm seeing with all of these soundings as well is very steep lapse rates. So essentially, that's just how quickly does temperature drop. That's something I've talked about again before. Is imagine an XY plane you'll see in school with X or Y on that line and X here. essentially what a QT does is turns that into a slant for the temperature with an X, like so for isobars. And these temperatures are dropping quicker than they would here because this is just decreasing. This way is, let me redraw that. This way is decreasing for temperature. So this is pretty steep decreases, and that means steep lapse rates. So if you're able to get an air parcel, say like 60 degrees Fahrenheit instead, that's warmer than the environment, it's going to be free to rise, and that's where CAPE kind of comes in. That's this little region right here. It's called CAPE. I'll probably stop looking too much at SQTs and photographs like fully in depth in the future. But, that's how I look at these, and that's where I get my information from. Photographs, same thing here. Curvature in the low levels, and then precipitation will be jetted off to the east. So, again, we don't really know how likely it will be that this becomes supercellular. It could also become pretty marginal and conditional of a risk. But again, we'll see how it pans out. I am going to be keeping a better eye on it, and I'm most likely going to have another video pretty close to this event, just because, again, it's something in my area. So I wanted to go over a summary of this video just at the end of this. So again, possible severe weather here for the Midwest. Probably this little corridor here. We could see a more favorable region over Indiana and eastern Illinois here. We're also seeing a lot of rainfall in California, even right now. And probably a lot of warmer temperatures for the eastern half of the United States all the way into next Wednesday. I mean, for a full 10 days, it's quite a lot. We'll likely be seeing a lot better, temperatures because of this high pressure sending warm temperatures from the Gulf and warm temperatures from Mexico and, the desert southwest from a low pressure here. This will be funneling in a lot of warmer temperatures for the east, which I think is something we can all get behind. With that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next forecast.